Hey, what's up? Today on the Price Sell Paint podcast, I get to talk with Maggie Kuyper from Harpeth Painting in Nashville. Sometimes you get to talk to people who are just really up to speed on what's going on in an industry, and Maggie's this person for me. We get to talk about women in the painting industry, the impacts that can have on a business, the pros, the cons, just opportunity available to looking at the labor force differently, not only from the production side, but from a sales side too. Maggie gets to bring some incredible insights from her knowledge as a CEO, as a sales rep, and as somebody who's been doing this for 7 years and growing her business substantially.
Welcome to Price Sell Paint, the go-to podcast for painting contractors and sales professionals in the painting industry. Hosted by industry experts John Bryant and Michael Murray. This podcast is proudly powered by PaintScout, your partner in painting success.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Price Sell Paint podcast. I'm John. Michael Murray is not here today, so try to bear with me as we get to chat with Maggie Kuyper. I'm excited. Maggie, thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here and hang out with you, John.
For those listening, Maggie, do you want to give maybe a 3-minute overview of what you do at Harpeth Painting, how you got here?
So my husband, Matt, and I own Harpeth Painting. We are located in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a pretty awesome place to be right now. It is a thriving city with lots of fun stuff. And we are in year 7 of the company.
Cool.
Matt comes with an extensive background in commercial construction since about 2006. He's been in the commercial world here in Nashville. And 7 years ago, we decided to break out on our own. We started the company pretty small. He was running it on the side while he was still a general contractor or working for a general contractor. And about a year and a half into it, it was just taking off so much. And we had enough cash saved away that we took it on full time. And a week after that, I had our third child. So
great timing.
Great timing.
Well done.
Yeah. And then about a year after he was born, I stepped in and helped him full time. And about 2 years ago, took over as CEO of the company. And here we are.
You guys are a force to be reckoned with in Nashville, from what I understand.
I hope so. I hope we make a lot of friends along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm super fascinated to talk to you about, the landscape of commercial painting for sure, but also just women in paint. I think you have a really unique perspective being part of the PCA. Your role as a CEO of a painting company, you sell a lot of painting as well, and I want to kind of figure out what's in there, get some of the information for everybody listening.
With all these numbers that you hold about our company.
Exactly. Yes. So, for those listening, Maggie is this year the highest selling woman on the system amongst the other things you do, which I think is just like what, mother of 4?
3.
3, mother of 3.
Unless you include
CEO of what's that?
Unless you're including Matt.
So mother of 4. Yeah. the whole CEO role, and you managed to do this. So kind of slacking a little bit, and we'll probably dig into that where you have some room to improve, but overall pretty impressive. So let's start with this question. Women in paint, you've been part of the PCA, involved with that. What do you see out there? This is a ridiculous question, but is there room for more women in this industry?
No, that's a cool question. There's room for new perspectives and new voices and new flavors. And there's room for professionalism. And I believe a lot of that is innately tied to women. Not that it can't be men, of course. My husband is very good at organization and design and things like that. All things considered, I think what I've noticed and what I hear from other women in the industry is, I want to use the word like it's refreshing for people. When I go out to a job site, whether it's residential or commercial, that's how I feel when most people see a female. It's refreshing. We have other females that work in our company, and it's funny because I think the builders, that especially new construction, it's just so gruff and tough. And then, that trickles into even homeowners. They're used to construction being a man's world and a world of unclean humans and bald tire, like it's just not a refined industry across the board. There are areas, but so I think when a female comes on, there's just an air about it that kind of almost brings everything down, and it makes it less gruff and tough and construction-y.
Right. And there's a benefit to that, right? What kind of benefits do you experience, you think, when you have that touch point?
I think, like I said before, I think I perceive the world when a woman is involved to just in construction, in paint, to just the world feels a little bit calmer. Most people are not going to speak aggressively or over assertively to a female. Like I'm not going to have a builder bark at me to say like, why don't I have 8 more painters on this job? It's going to just naturally be said differently. At one point in time, everyone had a mom. Not everyone has a great relationship with their mom, but there's a nurturing and there's a comfort to women that come, I think, and everyone just seems to be calmer.
For sure. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I mean, the reason I said it initially, it was like, this is a ridiculous question. The reason I think it's ridiculous is because it's just such an obvious answer. The solution here is a more balanced industry. And I think that lends itself better to professionalism in the end.
Kind of saying before is, men and women, our brains are neurologically wired differently. And I mean, my background is, I didn't mention this before, is education. I have actually my master's in educational psychology. And so like,
oh, no way.
The brain and humans and how we think, act, and engage is something that was basically my first career.
When I meet people like you, I always know you know what I'm thinking. So I'm just always worried. I'm like, I can't hide from you, Maggie.
Ron, you heard what I'm doing before. I don't have time to think about what you're thinking about.
That's true. Okay, cool.
But I was in education, and I worked at an all-girls school, and it was none of this is because I grew up with like a 70s feminist family at all. Like this is all just like how life aligned, and I think that's important to note, that this is how things fell, not how it was designed, because I think that speaks volumes to the point we're trying to make. So I taught an all-girls school, and we had all these studies and research and all these things come out about the benefits of girls at that age being together, like in a full female environment, and then same thing with guys, because we had a boys' school across the street. And what are the benefits as their brains are still developing to have them separated? Because the boys' frontal lobe develops 3 years later than the feet. Like it's just a neurological piece. So all that to say, we are wired differently. And, the whole adage that like women have tabs open and men have like browsers minimized, right? So like women have all these things going on. And there's just such a benefit to all industries, but especially ours that is male dominated, to bring in an outside perspective and for people to challenge the way that things have always been done. And
for sure,
I think it's a women's voice that's doing that right now.
Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. And I totally resonate with those points. So let me ask you this. I mean, you get a chance to sell painting projects to, is it mostly GCs, builders? Where do you sell most of your work?
All. Yep.
All. Okay.
Yep. I still have some residential repaint clients, designers, builders, all over the place.
Gotcha. And the reason I'm going to preface this question just by kind of referencing a conversation I've had with Michael Murray before, which is that Michael prefers to, not prefers, but he feels as though women can have a better connection at the point of sale with a lot of these types of projects. And that lends itself to a better sales process and can just be really, like you said before, like calm everything down and kind of have a real conversation because of what people are used to, which is like the gruff and tough. You call the company, someone shows up with those bald tires and dress covered in paint,
Yeah. Or the
and
used
with a
sales car guy
cigarette.
shows up.
Exactly, right? So like they're already prepping for that. Would you say that like do you feel any advantage
Hmm.
in this kind of space?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to, because I'm trying to place myself, in the sales process. I think
Yeah.
I've been doing it long enough that I don't often think about it, but there's definitely when I show up, our company is automatically set apart, because I'm different. Now,
Hmm.
that can go two ways, right? Like,
Hmm.
I could be different and then it could actually disrupt the sales process. We've
Hmm.
had that. I mean, I'm not going to act like it's the silver or magic bullet to have a female salesperson, because I believe I've lost jobs because I was a female and it just was someone that had, issues.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
totally. I can totally see that.
yeah.
That probably goes both ways too,
Yeah.
right?
But
It's
I
not a
think,
gender related thing.
I think
Yeah.
for the most part, what it does is as I said, it sets us apart. And then what we do from there, I think is, you know, androgynous. Like, it has nothing to do with,
Sure.
at first it's like, wow, there's a female, that's different. I haven't seen that. I thought painters were all men. I thought
Hmm.
construction was all men. Well, this is fun. And then if I nail the sales process, I think it definitely, or if I don't nail the sales process, me being different is actually going to be the downfall.
I see. So maybe there's actually opportunities, situations you have to work harder
Yeah, yeah. Well,
to
and
kind
I
of
think
bring
you
in
have
the
to.
trust.
I think there has to be. You have to be very polished in the sales process. If I was like mumbling and confused and not confident and maybe not knowledgeable on the process and the products, then all I'm going to do is more than likely fulfill some hidden stereotype that already existed about either
Mm,
women or women in construction or anything like that. And so, I mean, and that's neither good nor bad. I think it's just the truth. Like,
yeah.
when you're in a male dominated industry and you are different, people pay attention. And so you got to be on. You got to do it well.
Right. So maybe they almost pay more attention
Yeah.
in a way because of that noticeable difference. Yeah. Well, it's I think it's interesting because I mean, here at PaintScout we get to see kind of this breakdown of number of reps that are male versus female,
Mm,
and there's definitely a trend to more female for sure.
yeah.
And I think
Interesting.
there is some benefit. So it's interesting to play it out and kind of try to figure out why and what's really going to take this industry and make it different is when it's not 90% male,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
and people feel more comfortable
Yeah.
with that. So you guys right now, I mean, before the call, you kind of mentioned what's the breakdown of your workforce like in terms of male, female?
So
Is it
we have 11, soon to be 12 in our office, and there are one, two, four females.
okay?
And then our field, we are predominantly a subcontractor model, which is for another day. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
so I don't exactly know at every given moment, but I know that every single one of our sub crews has at least one female. Most of them have two or three. So we do also have crews in the field.
And so with that, like your in your office, you have other sales reps, I guess, too. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep. And for those listening, I mean, I know you mentioned you haven't had the chance to hire a female sales rep yet, but what are some of the things maybe that people should be doing just to consider if they wanted to bring someone on, how to make their company feel more comfortable or approachable or just allow for that situation to happen?
I think it's kind of what I said before. And honestly, this was the whole impetus behind the Women in Paint within PCA, which is just
Hmm.
giving women, whether it's your employee or, industry wide, the opportunity to learn the nuances of the industry. I would argue a lot of women didn't grow up in the trades. There are some that did. Like, I'm not generalizing, but most of the women I meet, this is something that they, came into, fell into, were courted into, whatever the situation is. And so giving them an opportunity to elevate them with education I mean, kind of going back to what I said about the confidence going in. And I see like the Isley's AI painting, they have a female sales girl who absolutely crushes it. And she is as
Mhm.
confident as it can get. And she just like is driven and she's into sales and she's strategic and she's building out a sales process. And she is just like a force to be reckoned with in the most adorable way. She's just like
Mm.
this adorable little peanut. And
Mhm.
so, it's the perfect thing, right? They gave her the opportunity to learn everything she needs to learn about selling and product so that she's set up for success. If I hire a salesperson and don't give them those tools, they're going to fail. But I believe, especially if I hire a female salesperson and be like, hey, good luck going and talking to that GC, or good luck going and talking to that homeowner. Hope you figure out what paint is. Like,
Good, yeah, good luck.
yeah.
And sell the job at the right amount,
Yeah.
and don't make us look bad. Yeah, the coaching sounds great over there at Harpeth. Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We're big culture hires. And so,
Mm.
I think that's a huge piece too, again, regardless of gender. But, um, you know, I would love to hire a female salesperson. I believe, especially on the commercial side, if I could have a real killer female estimator, because it is beneficial for commercial companies to hire women owned businesses. I mean, it has its
Mhm.
advantages for a million different reasons. But I just haven't found one. And I'm not going to just hire someone because they're a female and sell. Like, we are big culture people. And so I think that also gives kind of a framework for people to be confident and to sell well, is because they believe in what they're selling and who they're selling it for.
For sure. Yeah, so I think it's an important distinction of like the gender is not the important part. The important part is the culture fit, like you said. But there are like there's nuances to I think this business and this industry. We need to push the boundary of like
Yeah.
getting people involved, and so like I think about our painting company, and we now have it's an all employee company, and we now have 28 women on staff, and
Wow.
that the impact of that. So that's been a mission of ours to try to balance that out for the last 5 years. And the actual feeling around our company is so different than it used to be. Like everything you're saying about like gruff and tough,
Mhm.
it's like we are not. Like we're the most approachable, nice community that respects each other because we've had to and put those rules in place, or else it just wasn't going to work. And unfortunately, I think for a lot of women, maybe you can comment on this, but I think it's intimidating to think about what kind of treatment you might get at companies and like how uncomfortable that might be given the reputation of the trade. And so I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about how to make like, and maybe this is a hard one for us to diagnose, but to make it more comfortable and approachable. Like if you're trying to recruit, to be more equal in your team, how do you do that? Like how do you present yourself well, and what type of standards do you need? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Man, this is a big question, John.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to wrestle with this all
Yeah,
the
no.
time.
I mean, it's okay. I don't believe in this theory at its core, but I do think
Mhm.
it has its place. But do you remember Maslow's hierarchy? Did you ever learn that?
uh,
Where,
yeah.
yeah, you have like your food, shelter, clothing, and
Hmm.
like as long as that is taken care of, then you can go to the next level, which is like physical safety. Then you go to the next level and you work your way up to like being self-actualized.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of flaws in
Which
that
is
argument, but
mhm. Right.
I do think there's something to be said to the bottom tier of anything. And so the number one thing that I see and hear from women is, what
Mhm.
do I wear?
Interesting.
There's no good painter whites for women. So if you want to
Yeah.
dress like a painter, good luck. Um,
Right.
what do most women wear these days? Leggings. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that appropriate to wear in a homeowner's house? Do people feel comfortable wearing leggings in front of other people's husbands? Like, these are genuinely conversations that are repeatedly had on the Women in Paint Facebook page, among the
Hmm.
table when we all get together. And it's like, how how are we going to expect this industry to feel like a place that women are welcome when their bottom tier question is like, geez, what am I going to wear to work today?
Yeah, right. So the actual bottom of the
Yeah, like
hierarchy isn't even
literally.
currently met.
And
Wow,
so
that's yeah.
it sounds silly, but
Yeah,
um, or even you can take it up a level, like, can I physically carry a 40-foot ladder?
right.
I can't. Even when I was like the most badass CrossFitter ever, which is not the case currently, I don't know that I could have carried, lifted, and like, so there's certain parts of our industry that are just innately intimidating. And
Hmm.
they're things that to me are like, that base pyramid of, I mean, I remember my first expo, PCA Expo, it was the Savannah one. Like I mentioned, it was right when I had taken on a role in helping Matt with the company.
Yeah,
And it was both of our first expo. And I like can't tell you
you
how
had a
many
baby.
people, yeah, I had a baby. I can't tell you how many people I was like, what do I wear? Like,
Huh.
because I'm not like a khakis and polo type person. And so that felt like the only option other than painter clothes. And I'm not a painter. And so even as a professional in the industry, I was like, I don't want to overdress and like look like
Yeah,
kind of douchey and like I'm better than everyone, but I don't want to underdress. Like, so even me, who really typically doesn't care about what people think, was
yeah.
like, uh, this is new.
When you're behind the scenes and having these discussions with like the manufacturers and other people in the industry, what's the answer that's given? Is there any answer here?
No, I mean,
Hmm.
people are listening, especially within PCA, a lot of our industry partners who are, the Sherwin Bear, Ben Moore, PPGs, of the
Yeah.
world. And that's just, paint manufacturers. There's a litany of other people who are listening and want to support, women in the industry. And I know from conversations with people at these places, it's not because they see a marketing opportunity. And it's
Hmm.
not because they see, a tax break because they're giving to, an underprivileged proportion or portion of the industry.
Right.
It's exactly, John, what you've been saying this whole time is they see that it's a need, that this
Yeah.
industry will benefit from having women in it and having the voice of women in the industry. And so I think everyone's just like grappling their brains around like, where do we start? Do we start with painter whites or do we start with like empowering them? What do we do?
Right. Based on your very insightful Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think it might be the painter
Get
whites,
them some
and
pants.
someone should try that, like, or something, right? Like, I mean, I mean, you make such a good point. Like, I didn't thought of it that way because, like, I'm not thinking that way, and that's why this is like so insightful for me. Where I'm like, I'm not thinking about what I wear to work. Like, that's not the first question I ask myself. I got my browser open, not those tabs, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get to work today. Whatever happens in between there is fine. So, I mean, I think for people that are listening, like, just understand that there is a different thought process
Hmm.
around that hierarchy of needs and how that impacts a workplace is super empowering. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
very
and
impactful.
you can take any of it. I mean, this is true for any human. In the end, we're all humans. And I've never been one to sit here and be like, anyone's better than anyone. I believe at my core that we were created differently and that is beautiful when it all works together. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think it's important to, again, not to hone in on this hierarchy, but again, it doesn't have to be Maslow, but like, okay, so we figured out what to wear. But then the next thing that I hear a lot from women, John, is like that not all women feel comfortable in homes.
Hmm. Oh,
There
interesting.
are
Yeah.
poo-poo people in this world. There are, dumb
Yeah.
men who say things that they shouldn't, or there are women who say things that they shouldn't.
Hmm.
And it, that's another thing that I hear time and time again is, how do we feel? And so and we all know this because we've, through the whole Me Too movement, all these things, you learn that like one bad situation can cripple a woman's confidence, right? Like
Absolutely.
but that's true of any human, right? Like
Hmm.
if one awful thing happens to my husband, he's going to be impacted.
Hmm.
But if one jerk homeowner makes a comment about, you know, wow, a female on a job site, I guess this is going to take twice as long, or the opposite,
Right.
something inappropriate, like, oh, I like when you cut into those walls over there, like whatever it is. I don't know. I'm trying to
Is
keep
that
it,
is that the pickup lines on site these days? Yeah.
you will now carry that fear into your next few jobs. And most humans will internalize it. What did I do wrong? What can I do differently?
Mhm.
Instead of just saying, no, that guy was a turd. Um,
Yeah.
and so again, if we get past the painter's whites, then we have to get to, just our tabs are open. And so one of those tabs was how I was treated 6 jobs ago. And now I'm on a new job and it kind of looks and smells the same. And
Mm.
is that same thing going to happen, that I still have the tab open? Whereas my husband would be like, job done, browser closed, on to the next.
Right. So is there a way to help with that? Like, I mean, is this like about coaching, about other stuff, or is it legitimately like a safety concern?
I think women just want to be affirmed that it does happen.
Mm.
I think anytime I've said that's hard and that's really crummy that happened to you, but then also like, let's pull out of the loop. Has it happened again?
Mm.
Cool. All right, let's keep going and hope it doesn't. Was it we use this a lot in our family and our company. Was it an instance or a pattern? Right? So was this an instance where it was just a crummy situation and someone said something they shouldn't, or is this a pattern where like every other job you go to, we're now seeing? So like, I think if it is an instance, you have to just comfort and acknowledge that it happened and acknowledge that it's crappy and kind of, pull out of it. But then if it's a pattern, I don't know. Is it something that needs to be coached on? Is it a part of your marketing and sales process that you're getting the wrong clientele to have a female salesperson or a female painter? Like, I
Right.
don't know. But I don't know. I mean, that's how we make most decisions. Is this a pattern or is this an instance?
I actually wrote that down, so thank you for
Yeah,
that. I
you're
came
welcome.
here to learn today. Yeah,
It's a
thanks.
parenting
Don't bill me for that.
No, it's a parenting gem. I mean, side note, like every time I get frustrated with my kid, I'll be like, wait, that is like literally the first time she's ever done that. Okay, I'm gonna move on.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna use that, so thank you.
You're
Yeah. So I mean, I think like the things that I'm hoping people can take away from this are that like, there's an opportunity here for more involvement for women in the trade. I mean, I like what like I think Nick Slavic said this too. It's just like, look, you're hard up for labor. Well, you're overlooking 50% of the population.
mm,
Um, and so, but a big part of that is helping people understand what it means to make that happen. So it's a great like thing in theory. Like we need more women in this industry. But just what you said previously about like clothing choices, the feeling of being on site are really important for businesses to understand in order to make their workplace approachable and available and honestly just to make the industry better.
yeah,
So it's kind of like it's a big question that actually I believe leads us to that.
yeah.
So um so maybe let's shift gears a little bit, Maggie.
Okay.
Unless you have anything else to say on that. I so I'm really curious. I know we've gotten to know each other over the years just from you guys transitioning softwares and
Yeah, we
figuring out the
love
commercial
PaintScout.
space.
You guys are awesome.
Because oh man, love that. Thank you so much. It's
Yes.
been really fun um to serve the community and you guys are a huge part of it with the amount that you guys process. And I think um I wanted to kind of finish the conversation with, how did you guys in 7 years get to where you are? Because it's impressive and I'm wondering if there's just anything we can take out of that, especially in the commercial space, right? Like Commercial's not talked about that much. It's kind of a hidden area in a lot of ways. So, as the CEO of a thriving 7-year business, what do you sit back at today and think, wow, that's a really important part of what we do today?
Well, today, John, today my brain is filled with, can we keep doing this? Like, is this a sustainable size? There's a lot of
Right.
people.
Yeah.
That's where I am today. So I would just like to be clear that, everyone always thinks the grass is greener as you grow, but,
Mm,
still there's still moments. No, we're having a great year, and
yeah.
we have a great backlog, which I know now thanks to PaintScout.
Mm,
And so I joke when I say that, but I say that because today is one of those days where, just as an entrepreneur, I'm just like, wow, man, like we've got a great thing going. Can we keep doing this every year? Like,
right.
uh, so yeah, our growth is definitely hard to explain. I mean, there's a favor involved, but I think just we leaned into community, and
Mm,
there is a huge differentiator in our company in that, and we do a horrible job of tracking this on PaintScout, but I would venture to say in the course of our company, probably 80% of our business has been through referral, repeat customer, and relationships that we have. And so
mhm,
um, Matt and we have so many little pockets of community that we've had, over the years, and it's ebbed and flowed, and some have changed and some have stayed the same. And we are so grateful, but also attribute, our success to that. And so we are in the community, and I'm not saying that, that's a marketing plan by any means, but, when we make a point to be good people and to be involved in our community and in a lot of different ways, and just stay connected and not in our own little bubble, it's just brought so many opportunities. And so that's kind of the angle that we've launched as a company. Part of our employment requirement is that you're part of a networking group, whether that's a BNI group or, an AGC, ABC, or any other type of, and so we just believe in that power of networking. But networking in a genuine way. I'm not just like going to every event trying to like build relationships for the sales. Like
mhm,
I'm, all in our school community. Come to find out, there's great relationships there that have led to really cool projects. But
mhm.
that's not why I sent my kids to school there, you know?
That's yeah, or why you had
Yeah.
kids in the first place.
Yeah. Or like
Right. It was all about the
yeah.
networking that could happen.
We procreated for our business. Um,
I know. That's what I tell my kids. So just so they
you are
know.
a pawn. Um,
Yeah.
so like
That's it.
even this morning, we changed churches a few years ago, and like we've just started really getting involved in our new church. And guess where we're painting right now? I just went by this
Hmm,
morning. We're doing a bunch of cool faux finishing in the lobby. Again,
awesome.
that's just a side effect of how we've poured into the church, that they were grateful to be able to hire us. And so that those are just little examples of it's just the power of networking and the power of
Mhm,
of of being true to who you said. Like our core values are huge in our company, and they're not just words, and people see that. And so when you have us as your painting contractor, whether the job goes flawlessly or there's hiccups, at the end of the project that Harpeth Painting was exactly who they said they were going to be. And you knew at the end of the project that Harpeth Painting wanted you on their team as as a client, and that our whole goal was to build trust and do things right. And I will lose money on a job before I break that client relationship. And so I think you have to release that pride, you have to release that fear of money. And sometimes I'm going to lose money because we're going to do it
mhm.
right, and we're going to fix a mistake, or maybe there's a miscommunication and there's no one to blame, and we just need to, do what's right for the client. And so all these little things have just added up into really big growth. There's
I mean,
so much paint.
it's a lot. I think it's important to be honest about this and not for people, I mean, a lot of times people think it's glitz and glamour and,
Mm.
growth is great, but it's hard work. And I really resonate with that. And I think it's important also sometimes to sit back and think of the work you have done,
Yeah.
and that you're never, as entrepreneurs, you're never really happy.
Yeah.
And there's always more to do. And that's part of what inspired all of this, right? And so moments of gratitude and moments of just realization, and sometimes someone else saying like, you actually did pretty good, is super helpful.
Yeah.
And Maggie, you guys actually did pretty good.
Thanks,
So
man.
well done. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I
Yeah.
this morning, literally, our nanny was sick, and I put my children in the car because I promised a designer I would have a drawdown delivered to the job site today. And I
Right.
drove those poor little boogers all the way across town, got them some Chick-fil-A. They sat in the back seat of the car eating their Chick-fil-A while I delivered the drawdown, and we came back home just so I could get on this call with John. So, like,
Thank you.
it's just like, it's not glitz and glamour because I
Mhm.
run a large company with a lot of people, and that was my day today.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard. So, man, I thank you for taking the time. I think, well, now's probably a great time to wrap it up. And I think your insight into this whole situation with the industry as a whole and professionalization, importance and impact that women can have in the
Right.
industry is super valuable. And I hope that if you're listening along, you've got something to take out of this as well. And there's a lot of room for growth in what you're doing. So Maggie, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
rushing back, getting that Chick-fil-A and making this a priority. Your time is valuable and I appreciate that.
No, I love what you're doing. Keep it up. You have a great business, and I'm a big fan. It would have been really fun if I got on this podcast and just said that I thought women were shit and this should be a male-dominated industry. So
It would be the most insane podcast probably where we
maybe you would have gone viral, like crazy paint owner bashes women.
yeah, no room for women in this industry. I mean, if that's how you truly feel,
No, thanks.
another episode coming up.
Okay.
Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate your time. Have a wonderful day.
This podcast is proudly powered by PaintScout, your partner in painting success.